Welcome back, friendly ghosts. Today we're going to be playing some RPGMaker 3, doing some building and just messing around. There hasn't been much on the remake news as of late, or the remaster news, whatever you want to call it, refer to it as. Just a little article that I read, the usual, what are the prospects of the game? Demon Souls, could be something else, Dragoon, blah blah blah. You've already heard it before. There was a recent article that came out a bit ago, like a couple hours ago, saying like what could be Sony's reason for saying that they want the past, or what's the way that it worded it? It mentioned something like Sony wants to bring up the past as much as they are doing the future. And it's talking about the PS5's backwards compatibility and, talking about a lot of stuff like that. And how could they go about doing that? What are their plans for doing that? Could it be that they're planning on making backwards compatibility, or are they planning for more remake styles like they're doing Medieval in a sense like that? So there's a lot of talk like that. That's one of the recent articles I came across, and I thought that was pretty interesting. Like, if they're having like a starting lineup of PS5 launch titles, and their big thing is trying to bring up the past and to have that nostalgia thing there, then that ties into what's currently going on in our little fairy tale saga. So that's something. Anything else that's been happening this week? The Soul Calibur 6 trailer dropped for season 2. They sold up some stuff for Taki, we finally got to see her like soul charge attack, which was the AAK. And after that, it was like a vertical. The soul charge attack is a vertical, and it can lead into possession. It doesn't seem like it's going to be very combo heavy, since AAK doesn't end any combos in any sort of way. And if you do end your combos in AAK, then they can be air controlled, and by that point of the third hit, the air control is like pretty dynamic, and they can just zip out of the way, and they'll never get hit by the third soul charge vertical that she has, the new move. So that's kind of disappointing. But unless they change the properties of that move, then we'll see what really is under the hood. Maybe you can intentionally whiff the first A and hit him with the AK. And maybe then the air control will be less of an influence, and you'll be able to land that third soul charge hit. Because it looks like that stuns them onto the ground in the same way it did Mitsurugi in the first trailer. And the second hit looks like it possibly can pick up off of the ground. So I'm curious. If that does work and it picks up off of the ground, it could potentially be a wall carry, and it could launch them back up, into the wall. Sung Mini's they sold hers, and that was absolutely what that was. Although I could be wrong, she has a new soul charge attack that carries to the wall off of a basic launcher. She just basic launches them, and then she does that little new move, and she kind of sweeps them. She sweeps the rug and sweeps them up, and then off of the ground she lifts them up and then get like it's a wall carry. So I'm wondering if that will actually splat on the wall or not. Because if so, that's pretty darn crazy. And it's going to be really hectic for a lot of ring outs in the near future. That's one thing I really hope that they make a focus on in the new Soul Calibur season, is to like make more dynamic stages. The way that Tekken has it, the stages are kind of like the variables in the way that the game plays out. You get the stages are kind of a player in themselves, and Soul Calibur is kind of like, they're just there because they're so far apart from each other. So I would kind of hope that there are more dynamic stages that can give you that sense of that Tekken feeling where you're on Geese's stage and you hit them into the wall, then you carry them off and you hit them into the next wall, then you keep carrying them on, then you hit them to the next wall, you break the balcony, then you land them on a combo outside. I would hope that they do something similar to that. Although they won't be able to, because there's a 2 wall splat limit in Soul Calibur 6. So they have absolutely room to do something like this because they already have a limiter in place, so you can't go too crazy. So I would really hope that that's something that they would do. That would really spice things up and make more of a factor in the stages. So let me get started with this real quick and stop blabbering. But yeah, I really hope that they spruce up the stages in Soul Calibur 6 because that's like their biggest weakness in my opinion. The stages are kind of all just meh, you know, they're all kind of the same thing, the same shape. They all look alike. They're all on the cliff. They're all square, it's round, you know. They aren't too creative like they used to be. So I gotta load the game first, okay. And I'm using my M cable, so if you notice that the graphics look a bit cleaner, a bit crisper, that will be why. So anything else happen other than, you know, the weekly news of the teasing of remakes and whatever, and the Soul Calibur 6 trailer? The China stuff that's been going on, I don't really get into anything of that. What else? What do I want to do? I guess we'll start off by doing a play test. Because I've changed a lot of stuff around. And I don't know if you'll notice because I haven't really showed off too much. But I've been looking at a lot of RPGMaker 3 stuff from other people, which I didn't know even existed. But as it turns out, if you look real deep into the interwebs of the early internets, you start to see some very interesting stuff. The early internet was a strange thing. It was like a new planet, and it's kind of not like that anymore. It was like, you know, you could find like an entirely different world on the internet back in the 2000s, and it's something so strange and peculiar about looking back on history and seeing things that you have in common that still are in place today. Like this, for instance, seeing people that actually had a big focus on making these games and creating them. And they're really dope. People went really ham on RPGMaker 3. And that makes me want to up my game by seeing that. Because they got down pretty hard. People are nuts. They will use like 99% of the usage of the CPU, and boy, insane. So yeah, I'm not too sure if I'm going to really focus too hard on playing through this yet. I mostly wanted to do a build, but I'm like talking right now, so I just want to just mindlessly press buttons and have stuff show up on screen while I'm talking. So what else? What else has been going on lately? I just got through watching the Soul Calibur 6 tournament. Man. Siegfried is... Man, freaking Siegfried. I don't know what the move is called when he like does his hand move and then he starts to glow, or like after a certain amount of moves, whatever the criteria is, he starts to glow, and then he gets the ability to like do this like explosion on hit, and it's the cheapest thing because it takes damage off of you even if you block it, and when you block it, it does guard damage to you, which means it's like a lose-lose situation. And to make it worse, it covers all around them, so you can't escape from it. The only way that you can avoid it is by perfect blocking. But it comes out so quick, and it's like, do you really want to risk that? Taking like, it does a crap ton of damage even when you block. Do you really want to risk taking the full brunt of it? You know, so I was watching that, and that move just kept coming up. It was like the difference maker. It was like, man, because it has armor on it too when it starts up. That's even worse. It starts off with armor, And I think it even has a lethal hit property to it. It's like, and to top it all off, it's safe. After all of that, it's safe. After all of that it does, it's safe. It's like, how much more could you put into a move? You know, it's like the best move that he could possibly do at any point of any time. And I don't really have an issue with that move. It's like, the main gripe I have is that Soul Calibur 6 is, the game design of it is that they want to force you to be in close quarters combat. They want to punish you from being a turtle, from backing up the whole time. They want to punish you from playing long distance. But the thing is that the game fundamentally is flawed in that sense. If you, just my personal opinion, the game is flawed in that sense. In that long range characters always tend to have the advantage in fighting games. That's just kind of how it is, because I guess developers underestimate the advantage of having reach. But anyways, like, on top of the game forcing you to try to have close quarters combat because it punishes you from moving around. It punishes you if you sidestep. It punishes you if you backstep, if you backdash. And on top it all off, your movement is relatively slow. Like, there's no movement cancels or anything like that. You move at the game speed. And if you're caught moving, you get counter hit, and it basically screws you over. So why I say it's fundamentally flawed is because you have moves like that Siegfried has, that if you're in close quarters combat, no matter what, it's going to do a hell of a lot of damage to you, and it's going to really screw you over. So in a game that's constantly have like a rubber band effect on you to pull you in closer, and then you add in a move that punishes you for being in close, and you don't really have options for getting back out, that's where I like scratch my head a bit. You know, it's just kind of just one thing that rubs me the wrong way. One thing that I really don't like about it. That's why I like playing other fighting games a lot, like Soul Edge. I go back to Soul Edge, even though people say that game is sluggish and whatnot. The one thing it does have is a freedom of movement. You know, you could backspace, you could backdash relatively easy. You know, you got a lot of movement options to get in, to get out. And that's one thing I just can't get around in Soul Calibur 6, is that there's just so many situations like that where you're being rubber band to be up close, and then when you're up close you can't get out, and then you have these characters with super cheap attacks when you're up close that you basically just have to guess, you know, for like just like a lengthy amount of time until you get out of jail, and it's just you know. So that's my one gripe about that. And seeing that in the Soul Calibur tournament and just seeing that move, I was like, oh my god, I feel your pain. I feel your pain with that move. You know, being like a difference maker, that's like a sour taste. Because you were doing so well, and then you got hit by that, and now it's a guard crush, and now you're taking damage from it, and now you're minus, and now he's mixing you up after that. It's like, oh man, you know, I really don't like that move, because there's really no point in not using it. I don't use Siegfried, but from the general consensus of everybody who was watching it on Twitch, that's kind of what was the deal. So yeah, I would hope in the season 2 that they like add more variable stages to it. Nothing crazy like Tekken 4 where they have like these stages are like so different, like have elevation level differences, and you know, obstacles like in the middle of the stage. Nothing like that. Just like your usual, you know, dynamic fighting game where you have like different branches of a stage. Why doesn't Soul Calibur 6 have stage branches where you can knock them off and still continue fighting? Why doesn't it have that? It seems like that would be the one game that does have something like that, where you knock them off the stage and there's another stage beneath it. It seems like this would absolutely be something in the game. Of all the fighting games out there, how does Tekken have that and not Soul Calibur? That baffles me. Alright, so this guy, he has like a sealed ability that if you hit him with physicals, there's a chance that he's just going to completely nullify it with the sealed. But it doesn't really matter. I got a proper build going to take him out. So yeah, I would hope that Soul Calibur 6 really changes something up in that aspect. I would also hope that they have like, I'm really butthead about the movement. I really like moving around in fighting games. He's blocking all of my moves right now. Okay, this has to do it. Nice. So he's, now that he's criticaled, we hit him with a critical, he can't block this next hit. So it's automatically going to do damage to him, because he can't dodge it. And of course, you zero, of course. So he's nearly beaten. I don't want to waste another item, so... Dang it, I should have wasted another item. Oh, you little trick. Yeah, I really hope that they change something up. I know they're like trying to add combo extenders in the game, but I really think that the stages will really make the biggest difference. And also the way that the characters interact with the walls, that's also something I would hope that they change. Because it seems like there's like such a strict rule that applies when they hit the wall. You know, like freedom isn't completely there. When they hit the wall, you don't have time to adjust your steps. You don't have a time to like sidestep, like a micro sidestep, or to like dash forward. When they hit the wall, you gotta hit a button. You know, when they hit the wall, you just have to start stringing your moves out right there, right then and there. There isn't a lot of, you launch the character, you sidestep this way, then you dash forward a bit, and then you do this move. There isn't a lot of that in Soul Calibur 6. That freedom of creativity, it's not completely there. It's kind of scripted. A scripted feeling in a way. Although you can find like some, there's probably some, you know, differences, some that defy that rule, but for the most part, that's the sensation you get when playing it. Like when you hit the wall splat, you know, you have this one particular thing that you could do, or you could decide to go for mix-ups. You go for max damage, you go for mix-ups. You don't really have time to like, well, hit the wall. Now I'm gonna sidestep this way, and I'm gonna try to get them to the next wall. You know, you don't have time to do that, and that's something I would really feel would benefit Soul Calibur 6 if they expanded upon the freedom, because you already have limitations within the wall splats. So having that bit of freedom wouldn't hurt. Or it's not like they're scared of like ring out potential, because they're adding, you know, wall carries to the game, extended wall carries for a lot of characters. And on top of that, if you hit the wall, you're basically rung out already. If the stage has a, you know, a ring out option, you hit the wall, you know, it's already over for you. So why not just give that little freedom to the players, you know, to the characters? And I would really just hope that they expand upon that. The lethal hits, I don't really know if they could really change that. But you can't lethal hit in within a combo. Like if you start a combo and you try to do a lethal hit option while you're in that combo, you can't for specific characters. I think some characters can, but like for Taki, which is the character that I play as and I have the most experience with, even if you do her lethal hit options and you follow them properly, which is you have to be up close, you got to hit them from up front with a 2-2B, a running B or whatever, and that gives you a lethal hit. You know, her little lunging stab, that gives you a lethal hit. If you do that within a combo, you don't get a lethal hit. If you hit them from the side with the A forward, that's a lethal hit. But if you do it within a combo, it doesn't apply as a lethal hit for her. You know, there's these things that would, you know, with the freedom to add that in the game, make that much of a difference. I mean, it will make a huge difference, obviously, which is why, like, I would like it. But I really feel like that's the route that they should take, is to just expand upon the player room to be more creative. I would feel like that's something that a lot of players would like if they just expanded upon that. Who wants to play a game where you're restricted? I think if a developer were to come down and ask players, what's one thing that you would absolutely hate if we added to the game? And they put freedom or restriction. Everybody's going to say restriction. Nobody, not one player is going to say, oh, I really hate freedom in my fighting games. Not one player, not one person is going to say that. So if they could find a way to just add more freedom, take away that I don't know how to say the word, nuance, take away that hindrance, that no creativity allowed hindrance, which it isn't too overbearing. It's not like you can't be creative in any way, shape, or form. But if they were to just remove it just a little bit and let you peek behind the curtains and, like, you know, just give you the sense that you can be a bit more outside of the box, then I feel like that would greatly benefit the game overall. I mean, you could already be creative, but it's mostly like in the ground game. It's mostly in the neutral, you know, what's your playstyle. That's mostly the game's way of saying, well, you have the freedom to do what you want. But when you get to, like, you know what I'm trying to say? It's not like Tekken where there's like such a huge execution barrier for this particular setup or for this combo or anything like that. The only execution barrier comes from specific characters you play. Like if you're playing Ivy and you're trying to do, like, you know, her little grabs, and you're trying to hide them and mix them in with your style and make it seem seamless, that's difficult. That's an execution barrier. If you're playing a character like Aswell, there's no execution barrier for that character. You just learn how to play the game. You learn his criteria for his critical hits and his soul charge. You learn his basic stuff and you learn the character, you're good. You don't have to worry about execution barriers. If you play Taki, you have to learn how to do possession cancel. You don't have to learn, but that is an execution barrier. If you play, what's another character? If you play, what's a character I could say? If you play Cervantes, I don't really think he has anything that's really too difficult to do. But he doesn't really have an execution barrier, you know, and it's that type of thing going on in the game. It's like there isn't really the execution, you know, rise what you can do. You just have to learn how to play the character. The execution, you know, that comes in place with, you know, how do you play the game in the neutral? How do you match up against the other player? That's the execution barrier. The execution barrier is a skill barrier between the players, not in the gameplay. And that's kind of what I'm trying to say, I think. I think that's what I'm trying to really get across. This son of a trick. Okay. Okay, I see how it is. This is my latest project. I showed it off before, but I don't know if I really got in depth to telling what it's about. So basically, this is like a free build your character RPG experience. I wanted to get away from having a typical level up system where you get a character, you level them up by playing, you get experience, blah blah blah, you know, whatever. And my way of trying to change that, I want to increase the replay value of it. So what I'm doing is I give you the character, and at the start you are building your own character how you want them. You build your own stats. How do you want your character to play? You know, their character themselves, they have a specific art style to them. They have a specific makeup to them with their abilities and whatnot. But you can choose how you can, you know, increase that. How do you want this character to play? Kind of like choosing your super in like Third Strike or whatever. It's like, how do you want this character to you know, how do you want them to be? You want them to be like all strength. You want them to be like all magic, all defense. You know, you want them to have a lot more agility, blah blah blah, this or that. And that's what I'm doing with this, is to kind of create that little, the sense of, it's not about the story. It's about how do you want to play this, and how fast can you beat it, and how convincingly can you beat it. Can you beat it, you know, it's kind of giving the vibe of those games where you just, you know, you can beat it, but you also know there's a challenge, there's a challenging spot within it. Can you best your previous run through this game? You know, it's not an RPG where it's like, well, I gotta collect all these things and go through the story, do these quests. It's just, how can you beat this? How fast can you beat it? Will you beat it? You know, it's the type of thing that you would like have challenges for, and that's what I'm basically putting together here. And to basically get more in depth with that, just give me a second to like catch my breath a bit. I feel like I've done more talking today than I have in a while. So basically, let me just go through it step by step. So when a game boots up, you start off here, and you go through a little story sequence of blah blah blah. You choose the character. You want a male or a female. They have different stats. The male has more HP. The male has 20 HP, 20 MP. If you pick the female, she has 15 HP and 20 MP. The male specializes in skill-based attacks, which are attacks that take HP to use, and they aren't very accurate. Although he also has a magic attack. He has magic attacks. You choose between skills and magics as you progress through the game. So it depends on which way you want to approach the character. His magic attacks are also viable, but his skill attacks are just a little bit more oomph to them. Whereas the female character, she specializes more in magic attacks, although she also has skill-based attacks, but with her lower HP pool, it's a risky thing that you would want to do, like, you know, because there's increased chances of you losing. So you have to be more careful. And also she has like weapons that can increase her HP depending on her damage output. Whereas the male, he naturally gains MP, and there's these constant differences between the characters, and you have a chance to like improve them based on your own stats and whatnot. So that's basically what's going on here. Give me 1 second. Whee. Yeah, so that's basically the first choice you get. And after that, you go up to the light, you get to choose your stats, and the rest is history. From there, you go to, where is it? You go to the refuge. In the refuge, you are given the option to choose a secondary, which are the items you carry with your character. As you progress through the game, you constantly get a chance to restock on your goods, which when you come back to the camp, you basically get a choice to choose your secondary items all over again. Like you may have like a revive item that comes with an attack boost, so you get like a magic attack item that comes with another attack item that has like slowdown and like freeze status effects. And these are the secondary options you get to choose that make sure that no matter what kind of build you pick, it makes sure that you can never get soft locked from defeating the game. You always have a chance of dealing damage no matter what, as long as you have these items. So that's the first thing that happens when you come to the camp. You come to the camp automatically. The second thing is that I have like randomizers. So this box right here is labeled gifts. There's a lot of rewards in it. I have 20 events in here. All of them are 20 different rewards that you can get. All of them items that you can't normally get by playing. You can only get them by chance by, activating the box. And you need a certain treasure before you can activate the box. Now in this game, there isn't a random generator, so you can't really randomize things. So my workaround is I have like a ton of different gears to vary the event modes based on the time of day, based on the specific items you bring, based on a lot of different situations. So I got these events that are all just in here to randomize, specific areas of the game. So that's my workaround of not having a randomizing option. And of course this is where you get your new skills when you have a certain item, a certain treasure. As you progress through the game, you have like teleporting paths to get back to the later areas, because it's a very linear-esque go through this level, go to the finish line type of thing. And you have stores and blah blah blah. And another thing is that there aren't a way to hide things behind a paywall. You can't hide events behind paywalls, to my knowledge at least. So one way to do that is that, because you could very easily just like, you think you're being like thorough and hiding, like saying you're taking away a certain amount of gold from the player by activating this event, but there's no way to make it a requirement to have that gold. So you could just basically have a character who has 0 gold, but your event says that it takes away 50 gold for them to activate the event. The game will still take away 50 gold, but it's not a necessity. That's a necessity. So why they have 0 gold, it'll just reduct 50 from 0, and basically nothing happens. They can still do the event. So one way to make a paywall is to use, if I can get to it, is to use the launch pads that you can put into towns. And let me show that off. So some towns have launch pads, and you can add them, and when you go to them, you're required to pay a certain amount to go to a different area. So this is the only way you can put a paywall in a game, and the only way that I know of, at least. So I have like a save area. It costs 10 gold for you to go there. And what you can do is you can have this excuse me. You can have this launch pad, and you could put like specific items behind the launch pad, or specific shops, or specific weapons, specific events that you want to cost money. You can put them behind the launch pad, put a certain price behind them, and that's how you can lock things behind paywalls. There may be other ways, but I haven't found them yet. So that's my workaround for it. Also, I didn't mention the ways that you can level up your character. You can level up your character by gaining new abilities and whatnot, and you also can level up your character by planting events down. One way that I had to level up characters was I had an event here where we had like an item that was called build upgrade. This is a treasure I put in, and when you get that treasure, you come to the camp, you go to this little thing that I put down here, and you go up to it and you get an option that says, do you want to level up? You want to level up these certain stats. You click it and you would get that level. I decided that was a bit too boring, a bit too dull. So I wanted to enrich that sensation of player involvement. That's what I'm all about, is trying to make the combat feel good, trying to make the gameplay feel good. The story, that's going to come later. I'm not going to stress too hard on it. But I want to really create the immersion of the game and create that sense of playing the game. So let me show off my change to that little situation to make leveling up feel a bit more interactive. Just choose this character just for the heck of it. We're in debug mode, so we could get across these things relatively cheaply. Okay. Go to refuge. Oops. Alright. And you'll see that it's, I don't know, it could be for the better, it could be for the worst, but I like it more than just simply clicking an option, and I think it suits the vibe that I'm going for. Okay, so here's the new level up feature that I've added on. I gotta give you the build upgrade. Alright, so now that we have that, we can activate this. And it's basically an entire field based solely to leveling up your character. Although it's not experience that you're getting to level up. Instead, what you're getting is, you know, pretty much the same thing. There's a randomizing feature, randomizer gears in the background working, and you go through different trials of what you're trying to level up, and we'll showcase that. This enemy is actually part of the randomizer. Since there's no way to add actual randomizing in the game, I didn't give him any stats, so I can't actually deal damage because I skipped that part. So we're just gonna force the win. But that enemy has 0 stats all across the board and just 1 HP, and he's weak to humans. So he's just there for fodder, just for this. These items that you get, you always get 1 item from the enemy. And any other item you get besides that is random. Of course, the enemy that shows up is also random, because it's a random encounter. So these potential plus items that you get, they are actually promoting the gears in the background that randomize, as you'll see after we activate this. So now you choose